Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about the concept of Fanyin and Fuyin with respect largely to Chimen charts. It also exists in Batsa charts, but it's recognized in a different manner than what I'm going to show you here. They have an overall effect on the charts, regardless of the entities within the chart. So it has a possibility to affect your reading when you are doing this, depending on what kind of reading you're doing. So every aspect of all the sectors, each individual sector within a Chimen chart needs to be looked at with an eye to whether or not you have a Fanyin or Fuyin condition, because that can modify some of the aspects. It doesn't necessarily modify everything, but it can modify some of them. Now, most charts do not have either a Fanyin or a Fuyin condition. They're just charts. They don't have this special condition. Now, the nice thing is the Chinese Metasoft site will tell you which, if any, of your entities are in Fanyin or Fuyin. So this saves you a lot of time. So you might even consider it a 1-month subscription just to do this, because this is easy to see what your condition might be. Your chart can have up to 3 Fanyin or Fuyin, but you could have a Fanyin in your doors and a Fuyin in your stars, or maybe a Fanyin in the stems and a Fuyin in your doors. You can have any mix. There's nothing that ties them together. So you can have none or up to 3, but they can be a mix. But every entity only has 3 possible conditions. It could be just a standard condition with nothing special, or it could be Fanyin, or it could be Fuyin. You cannot be Fanyin and Fuyin at the same time. Now, the spirit locations are kind of complicated, and typically there's not, they don't consider there being a Fanyin or Fuyin condition with the spirits. Although Joey Yap does describe natal locations for the spirits, but for some reason you don't apply it that way. I don't really understand why, but I can live with it. Now, in the rest of this video, I'm really going to only be referring to Chimen charts, even though these concepts do exist also in Batsa. Now, Fuyin charts whose doors or stars are in the natal location, this is how you recognize you have a Fuyin chart. For the stems, it's a bit different. Basically, the heaven and earth stem are identical in all sectors. It must occur in all 9 sectors of the Chimen chart. So it doesn't really matter where the stars are. Where the stems are, but they have to be identical on top and bottom. Now, the meaning of Fuyin will depend on its usage. If you're talking about a natal chart, it usually means you're aligned to your purpose, but you can also be stubborn. It can be hard for you to change. In a forecast chart, it means there's no change in condition. So you interpret it differently when you use the chart for different purposes. A Fanyin chart for the doors and the stars are when they are in the opposite location of their natal location, so diametrically opposed to where they were in the natal location. And I will show you actual diagrams of this so you'll understand more easily as we move along. For the stems, the heaven and earth stems in opposite sectors are inverted. And it's easier to see that than to try to describe it. And I will show you in just a bit. Again, the meaning depends on the usage. For a natal chart, it means that this person tends to seek change and has challenges. And they often are either ahead or behind the times, which is what often causes their challenges. But of course, it is better to be ahead of the times. And if it's in a forecast chart, it indicates significant difficulty, quite a bit of challenge. So it's not so good in a forecast chart. In general, today, it isn't so bad in a natal chart because today changes kind of what's happening. I mean, life changes quite quickly now compared to, when Shimin was developed. And so you roll with the changes better if this is in your natal chart. Now, if you have a Fanyin in the doors and the stars and you're in the negative side of things, you might do the wrong thing or the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong thing at the right time. And again, you can be ahead or behind, or you could do something right in the wrong place. An example of this could be you tell a really good joke about your boss, but you don't realize he's standing right behind you. And this can cost you. And that's doing perhaps the right thing because everybody jokes about your boss, but you're doing it in the wrong place when he's right there. So that's what's meant by the wrong place. Now, if you have a Fanyin in your stems, it basically says in the natal chart, it means in general, maybe you flip between two different modes of dealing with the world. Maybe you're a little more unpredictable, which actually can be good in some situations. So, it has its pluses and its minuses. In a forecast, it usually means conflict with people, but it actually depends on the focus point of the forecast. If the forecast is about let's say, work or a certain task, then that the people might not have much to do with it, especially if you don't work with a bunch of people. So it isn't always about conflict with people. Sometimes it's irrelevant. So here's the charts I promised. This is for the doors. This is the natal location of the doors. And the order, whether you're in a Fanyin or a Fuyin, the order is always the same. If we start with life, it's harm, delusion. You can see it here. So life, harm, delusion, scenery, death, fear, open, rest. Here's life, harm, delusion, scenery, death, fear, open, rest. And because this always is this way, once one thing is flipped, like here we have scenery and rest, rest and scenery, when one thing is flipped, everything has to be flipped because there's a set order. And so, of course, if you were to move this just one space to the clockwise or one space counterclockwise, you're not going to be in either of these conditions. You're just going to have a standard chart. This is for the stars. So this is the natal locations of the stars. And this is the flipped location, which is the Fanyin. So we can look at grass and hero. Well, here, the original one is hero and grass. So you can actually concentrate on the north and the south, and you can know which ones you have if you do not pay for the Chinese Metasoft. And just like the doors, there's a consistent order. So if you've got one of these switched, they'll all be switched. Now you notice I have bird in parentheses. Bird always comes with the grain, but it isn't always there. And I will discuss that later, but not in this video. So this is for the stems. This is the Fuyin condition where both of these are the same in every single sector. Now, they don't have to be in this order. This Yi could be anywhere, and the Wu could be anywhere. There doesn't have to be Bing in the center either. These could all be mixed up, but as long as they're the same on top and bottom, you have a Fuyin in the stems. This Fanyin in the stems is opposite. Polar opposites have the opposite thing. We have Yi and Ding. Here we have Ding and Yi. And here we have Sin and Gun. And here we have Gun and Sin. Ren and Yi. Yi and Ren. I just said it the wrong way, but they're flipped. And then we have Wu and Gui, and here we have Gui and Wu. So everything is flipped. Now the middle will be the same. I mean, it can stay the same. So, and again, you can have any combination. This doesn't have to be with Ding. The Yi doesn't have to be with Ding. It can be with anything. As long as diametrically opposed, they're flipped. That's what defines a Fanyin in the stems. Now, I'm putting this as a separate video because knowing whether or not you have a Fanyin or a Fuyin or neither is important in analyzing any Qi chart, including your own or for forecasting. Most readings, or many readings, focus primarily on the spirit star and doors of any given sector, and the stems are in general not quite as important unless you're really talking about people. And that's especially true in a forecast reading. In a natal chart, the Fanyin Fuyin condition can affect all aspects of one's personality or your path in life. And the Fuyin doesn't do a lot except for reinforce things, but the Fanyin can really change things. So, for example, if you have entities in important sectors like your guardian sector, some of these may indicate you're not flexible in your attitudes or your actions. You're pretty set in your ways. And if you have a Fuyin, that's even more reinforced. Now, if it indicates that you're not inflexible, that you're actually very flexible, a Fuyin will enhance that. So it depends on what is in the rest of the box, what a Fanyin or Fuyin will do. If you have a Fanyin in this condition, this inflexibility can be nullified and it can even go the other direction, because the Fanyin actually affects every single sector of your chart, whereas a entity that indicates inflexibility, let's say like the ambassador, it is only in one sector, whereas the Fanyin's in everything. So it often can nullify that. And in this case, because of the way the Fanyin and Fuyin works, the Fanyin is most effective at nullifying inflexibility, because the Fanyin people in generally like change. They tend to be restless. They can face challenges, but they're usually capable of dealing with them. Now, in a forecast, the entity depends on the question. And this is the hardest part about forecasting. It takes a lot of practice to properly do this. Now, if the Fanyin or Fuyin condition is an entity other than the focus entity, it often has relatively little effect on the results. But and remember the stems are about people. The doors are about actions. The stars are about basically the society, and the spirits are the spirits never are Fanyin or Fuyin, so you don't have to worry about that. But if your question has to do with a focus entity, like if I do this, can I have this happen? And you have a Fanyin or Fuyin in that entity, it's going to make a difference. But a Fuyin means that no matter what you do, it doesn't make any difference if we're talking about an action. But a Fanyin can indicate a large change, so that if you do something and it gives you a good result, this is what you really want to do, because you've got it right. So And sometimes you can ask it in a different way to say, what should I do to accomplish whatever goal you have? And that's also has to do with the doors. So your chart that you'll read is a forecast chart, which is basically just an hour chart in the hour that you ask the question. So that's how you would get a forecasting chart. So that basically concludes what a Fanyan Fuyan is, and you can keep this in mind. Not that many people have these conditions, but some do. And hopefully this helps you understand your own chart when we look at this in a few more videos. Thank you again for watching.